All right, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show. This is your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. The madness continues. The fallout with Joe Biden after the debate debacle continues. You have Democrats coming out saying that he should quit. Joe Biden remains defiant, saying that he's going to stay in. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the implications of that as well. And also, thank God, the GOP is now, or they have officially released their 2024 platform ahead of the convention. They're calling it a return to common sense. So we'll go through some of those. I don't think many people are talking about that as of yet. Obviously, all the news with Biden is still the major news as the fallout continues with the Democrat Party. One of the things that happened over the weekend, Biden went to Pennsylvania. He went to black churches, or went to a black church to kind of prop up that base, if you will, or for that base to prop him up. A lot of people out, including Joy Reid of MSNBC, saying that she would vote for Biden even if he was in a coma. And I'm glad she said that. And this is the reason why, because one of my concerns with Republicans, and this is why I'm so glad that the RNC has decided to release the platform right now. It is nice to talk about Joe Biden. I am so glad that the Democrat Party are struggling and they absolutely don't know what to do in this particular scenario, because the mainstream media cannot be trusted. If they lie to you about Joe Biden, what else will they lie to you about? What else have they lied to you about? If they lie to you about his condition, even despite the fact that you and I watched for several years and we looked at Joe Biden and we are like, dude, this dude has dementia. And then they said, no, you know what? You're crazy. I'm crazy. And now they're trying to cover their tracks. This has been a major cover up all along, and now it's just broken up. It's busted wide open all over their faces, so to speak. And now they're in trouble. Now they're scrabbling because they thought that they could cover this up. They thought that they could drag Joe Biden across the finish line so that the left could continue to do their to fundamentally transform America. And I understand, you know Biden, in my opinion, is building off of the foundation that former President Barack Obama said. But he said he wants to be even more transformational. He wants to be bigger than FDR. So this is a guy who intended, when he went in office, to fundamentally transform America and go big, go bigger than Barack Obama. But he would have never been in office were it not for Barack Obama. But this guy wanted to set his own. He wanted his own legacy. Well, he's getting his legacy. He's destroying the country, and now many people understand that the people that are around Joe Biden are the ones that are likely running the country for the most part, because the guy is out of his mind after 4 p.m. apparently. And I would think even before, there's times where Joe Biden is going to be able to take medication and he's lucid. You guys have heard the story, I'm sure, that a Parkinson's doctor was in the White House. I believe it was 8 to 9 times in the last month, or I'm sorry, 8 to 9 times in the last, I want to say close to a year, 9 months to a year, consulting allegedly with the White House doctor, with the White House physician for Joe Biden. Guys, there's no other reason for a Parkinson's specialist, a movement specialist, as they're called, to go to the White House except to treat Joe Biden. And these fools want you to continue to believe their lies. Guys, don't believe their lies, and now understand that the media is absolutely corrupt. That's why I'm so thankful that you're joining us here on the podcast, the Carl Jackson Show podcast. By the way, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast: Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Also, all things social media at the Carl Jackson Show provider. All right, so we're on X, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. Did you like that, Gabe? I'm really trying to practice my Spanish. I'm going to give you a couple. I'm going to give you a couple more headlines. Given the fact that illegal immigration into this country, the illegal invasion into this country, is still going on and still strong, and we haven't talked about those things because we've been so busy watching and joyfully watching. Let's be honest. Let's be real. It's been really fun to watch the Democrats in complete and utter chaos. But we can't rest on our laurels. I don't know why I started saying rest on our laurels. I got to find a different way to phrase that, because that's not something that I would typically say, but I know you guys know the meaning of that. But we don't want to get lazy, all right? Just because Joe Biden and the Democrat Party are Joe Biden is in survival mode. And by the way, if you haven't listened to my podcast that we taped on Saturday night, we broke down we listened to the entire Stephanopoulos interview. And Stephanopoulos was a tacticianer, in my opinion. He knew exactly what he was doing. That was a high pressure interview to try and convince Joe Biden to leave the seat. I thought, I didn't think this, but many people said that this was going to be an interview where George Stephanopoulos would go to kind of prop up Biden, if you will, make him look good. It was the complete and utter opposite. It was kind of a hit job, if you will, but it didn't succeed because Joe Biden is out and he's stronger, appears to be stronger, or at least more determined than ever. Um, than ever. All right. So, also, anybody if you're on YouTube, if you're on Rumble, particularly on YouTube, if you'd like to participate in the super chats, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Carl Jackson Show on YouTube, and you can participate in the super chats. I'm so thankful for those of you that have in the past. But again, we will be going over some of the news for the day. I want to talk about illegal immigration. That's something that's out there, but also I want to get to this 2024 platform, a return to common sense, because this is not getting lazy, in my opinion. I'm kind of all over the place, but this is not getting lazy. It's fun to look at what's happening with the Democrat Party, but at the same token, I don't think we can take for granted that just because the Democrat Party is in disarray, that they're going to necessarily that we're going to run away with this thing. I've heard a conservative say this is going to be a landslide election. I don't know. I hope so. Maybe. If you get out to vote, if you bring other people out to vote, but you have to understand that people that are watching this podcast, people like you and I, are, we're the nerds, right? But there's a lot of people out there that don't pay attention to politics like we do, and I get concerned that sometimes we might exist in this bubble like some people do in Washington, D.C., but we're not in Washington, D.C. We're not elitists. We're not snobs. We're not any of that. We're not the establishment, but we are political junkies, right? We are nerds. And so we talk about this stuff amongst ourselves. And my concern is that sometimes we can even get caught in a bubble and assume that everything is hunky-dory, assume that we're going to run away with this thing. I'm not sure if you guys heard the news, but Wisconsin, the Supreme Court of Wisconsin, remember, on the off-year elections were very crucial. And I'm jumping back and forth, but I just want to show you or illustrate to you why we cannot take this election season for granted. I don't care what any other conservative talk show host says, what any conservative outlet says. I don't care if somebody says we're going to run away with this thing. It's appearing to be a landslide. Even David Axelrod from CNN, political analyst, formerly White House chief of staff under President Barack Obama, and a good one. I can't stand his policies, but as far as he is concerned, and Van Jones, I really think they were smart tacticianers, on the left. But he said, listen, Joe Biden needs to understand that this may not be a close election. The way the data, from what the data is showing, this thing could be a landslide. I'm not listening to David Axelrod. I understand Joe Biden doesn't like him, and I think vice versa is the case as well. But nonetheless, we don't know. I mean, as far as we know, that could be a setup. That could be. Let's make sure that the Republicans are motivated, guys. We've got to be motivated. We've got to remain vigilant. We can't assume that we're going to win this election. And then I want you to, as I often say, make sure that you're checking out your local elections. I live in Central Florida area, in the Orlando area, and thank God we have lots of leadership that are, hey, we're doing this. We're having the debates between these candidates and stuff like that. Make sure your executive committees are sharing that information with you. If you're not in contact with your executive committees, Republican executive committees, wherever you are, get in contact with them. At least know what they're doing. Maybe they'll have debates. Maybe there's candidates that are in a primary or candidates that you can support locally. You want to make sure that you have a buffer of freedom. I like that, Gabe. I just came up with that. A buffer of freedom around you. All right. So make sure that you do have that. All right. Before we go on, and forgive me, sometimes you're going to see me get up from time to time because I'm not going to lie to you. I sit on a very hard stool, so I can sit up high on this high desk, and it hurts my butt like nobody's business. And I keep saying I'm going to buy a My Pillow for it, and I haven't done it yet, like an idiot. But anyway, you can buy My Pillow products, and you can buy them right now for 20. Are they 25% off or 25% extravaganza? What's the deal here, Gabe? Don't let me go astray. All right, so mypillow.com right now there's a $25 extravaganza. So Mike Lindell, as you guys know, is the owner CEO of mypillow.com. He's been canceled. He's a victim of that. He's been canceled in the box stores. He's been canceled on these shopping channels. Well, the good news, that's bad news, but the good news is he's going to, or what he has been doing is he's offering savings directly to you via me. All right, so you go to mypillow.com, click on the radio podcast square at the top of the page, and enter my name, Carl, Carl. I don't spell it like the commies, all right? Carl, or give them a call at 800-858-0263. 800-858-0263 is the number that you can call in. And right now they've got this $25 extravaganza. All right, so when Mike started this company, he only had one product. That's the My Pillow. But with the help of his loyal employees, his dedicated employees, they now have hundreds. They have literally hundreds of products. Go to mypillow.com, take advantage of the $25 extravaganza. You can shop early for Christmas or something like that, birthdays or whatever it may be. All right. So, again, a 2-pack multi-use My Pillows are just $25. The My Pillow sandals are just $25. There's six. I just ordered some of those, by the way. There's 6-pack towel sets are $25. Brand new 4-pack of dish towels are $25. So and for the first time ever, the My Premium or the Premium My Pillows with all new Giza fabric, they're just $25 as well. So mypillow.com, promo code Carl, Carl, or give them a call at 800-858-0263. Okay, so my message to you is despite all the news, do not rest on your laurels. Let me explain to you why. And then I want to play a couple of videos for you, and perhaps we'll play some more videos that we shared on Saturday night. Actually, we played the interview in its entirety on Saturday. Gabe, I like that. Good job. We played the video in its entirety on Saturday, and what I did was I opined. You like that, Gabe? I opined about the interview, just breaking it down and just showing you, man. I'm telling you, that guy, Stephanopoulos, I don't think people on the right or left are giving him enough credit. That was a pressure campaign. And perhaps I'm not giving Joe Biden enough credit because even in his senile state, the ability to withstand that pressure campaign from George Stephanopoulos tells me that Joe Biden is a complete and utter narcissist once his brain, even before his brain went to mush. All right, so here's what you have to look forward to if another Biden administration. And let me say this too. I heard somebody say this, and I've been saying it for quite some time, and I want to reiterate it. I want to reiterate it because I think this is why I was so glad to come on. I was going to talk about strictly the Joe Biden stuff and all that, and again, we'll get into some of that. But I was so glad. I'm sorry, my papers are flying all around with this fan on. But anyway, I was so glad that somebody with a larger platform said what I've been saying for quite some time. And actually, there were strategists, they were pollsters that came on to Sean Hannity's program, as a matter of fact, and mentioned, listen, the Republican Party are making a mistake by not talking about policy, by just allowing Democrats to beat up on each other. That's great. That's fine. Right. It's good to see them do that. There's a lot of turmoil. But what we have to understand, it doesn't matter if it's Joe Biden. It doesn't matter if it's Kamala Harris. It doesn't matter if it's Gavin Newsom or Shapiro of Pennsylvania, Pritzker of Illinois, whomever, Whitmer of Michigan. It doesn't matter if Democrats were to hold an open convention, and more, as long as Biden stays vigilant. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. He's got a letter out. As a matter of fact, I'll read you some from that letter. He's got a letter out saying he isn't going anywhere. But my point is, it doesn't matter who the nominee might be, and it's likely going to be Biden. All right, Biden said he isn't going anywhere, and they can't make him go anywhere. He has to voluntarily go. I guess if let me take that back. Democrats are communists. If they wanted to figure out a way to make Biden go, they can make him go. The problem is he controls the cash, and the only person that he can relinquish his campaign cash to, apparently, is Kamala Harris. All right. So, and Democrats know that with a new candidate, they'd have to start all over. All right. And Kamala Harris, I know she'd be a disaster, but I understand this about Kamala Harris. I don't think she'd run the White House any differently than Joe Biden. I think she'd have a close knit circle, and I think people would basically tell her what to do. All right. And that's happening. That's what's happening with Joe Biden No doubt about it. Where was I going? I lost my train of thought for a second here. I tell you what, let's do this. Let's go ahead and play. Let's play cut number one. Joe Biden visited a black church in Philadelphia this weekend, and let's see what he had to say. Por favor, Gabe.
I got my start in public life, never intending to run for office, as a public defender in the civil rights movement. And I was no great shakes, but I worked hard in Delaware. And I used to go to 7:30 Mass in my church, and then I would show up at Reverend Beeman's, now Bishop Beeman, church, AME church in Wilmington, get ready to go out and make the plans for what we're going to do to change the situation. So it really is good to be home.
Okay. Do you guys believe any of that? I don't. This guy's a perpetual. This guy is a perpetual liar. Um, I just don't believe any of that. Not to mention, I did a podcast. You can go back and check it out. 10 most racist things Biden said, or something like that. I did it quite some time ago, but I encourage you to go and find that podcast and share that podcast. This guy was one of the most racist senators. I mean, he hung out with the most racist senators in the Senate after he got elected. He befriended these guys. All right. So this guy coming out and saying he was part of the civil rights movement. It's what Joe Biden does. Joe Biden always plays to the crowd. But keep in mind, when Joe Biden goes in front of a black crowd, when a Democrat, period, goes in front of a black crowd, and I'll be honest with you, black church should be ashamed to let that fool inside of their building. But I got to tell you, these candidates probably reflect who we are or who we've become as a people. It's really just a sad state of affairs. But Joe Biden was one of the most racist senators and hung around with some of the most racist senators. I mean, remember what he said about Barack Obama, the most clean and articulate. Come on, that's a storybook, man. Why is that a storybook? A clean black man that's intellectual, that's articulate. That's a storybook. Where the heck have you been? That's Joe Biden. That's the real Joe Biden. But Joe Biden is willing to do anything and to say anything to remain in power, which is absolutely fascinating to me because apparently that's where his mind is when he's in his right mind. There's another. I don't know if this is a video or not. I hope it is a video, but I do want to go to cut number 3. A radio station host, and I forget her name. I want to be. Oh man, let me try to find her name, because she appeared, I believe it was on CNN. Man, what is her name? Anyway, I'll search for it. And Angela, what? Angie, Angela. Oh, Andrea. Okay, so Andrea something. I'm sorry, you kind of broke up on me, Gabe. Andrea Sanders. I can't hear the middle thing. All right, so her middle initial is an L. So this lady had a radio show. Lawful. Okay. All right, so this lady had a radio show apparently in, I'm not sure where it was. Let me see if it's on the tip sheet. Anyway, black woman had a radio show and she appeared on CNN over the weekend and admitted that the Biden administration had passed them questions, right? Told them what to ask. She was allowed to pick from 8 questions. She picked 4 out of the 8. And then there was a black gentleman. He has a radio show. I'm pretty sure that he's in Wisconsin. Maybe both of them are in Wisconsin. I believe the black woman was in Pennsylvania, and I believe the black man was in Wisconsin, if I'm not mistaken. And so basically, these guys received talking points from the Biden administration after his disastrous debate. Yeah, okay. So here it is. She worked for WURD. It's the only African American owned operated talk radio station in Pennsylvania. But the White House's director of black media hat tip to Axios, by the way, was not part of the process. It is the latest instance of the White House continuing to shield the president from unscripted moments. All right. So this black radio host, this woman, again, yeah, you're right, Gabe, Lawful Sanders, Andrea Lawful Sanders. And then there was Earl Ingram. Earl Ingram is also, he interviewed Biden the day after the debate, apparently, for his show on a black radio station in Milwaukee. So it was Earl Ingram and Andrea Lawful. Man, when you were saying that, Gabe, I did understand lawful. I was like, surely it's not lawful. Surely I'm hearing this wrong, but it is. But it is Andrea Lawful Sanders. So she told CNN Saturday morning that her, quote, questions were sent to me for approval and I approved them. All right. So here's where, let me try to tie this black church and this together. Now, the Democrat Party says they're for black people, right? The Democrat Party claims that they're for the oppressed. But when their policies destroy their very voters, their very constituency, what do? They go to the people whose lives, whose communities they're destroying and say, you know what, prop me up. So their policies aren't helping the black people, but you've got a couple of black radio hosts in crucial states, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. You know what those are? Those are swing states. So you've got black people who literally the Biden administration and his policies has done nothing to help the black community, but you have black people willing to prop him up. You see how that works? You see how the Democrat relationship works with black people? I don't have to do a damn thing for you, but let me give you some questions because you're going to make this old white man look good. That's exactly what happened. And these people, it's disgusting. It is disgusting. If you're going to be on radio, if you're going to be in media, hold people accountable. That's what your job is. That's what you're paid to do. So apparently, this lady, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and WRD have parted ways. They've split ways. They've gone their separate ways because at WURD, they said they're not going to be the mouthpiece for anybody. And so there's reports that she resigned. There's reports that she's canned. I don't know. All I know is she gone. All right. She is no longer there. And perhaps she will learn a tough and hard lesson. You don't carry water for politicians. I don't care who they are. I don't care if their name is Biden. I don't care if their name is Trump. I don't care if their name is DeSantis. These people work for us. You've got to get that through your mind. If you don't understand that, if you don't grasp that, I don't care if you're conservative, I don't care if you're a liberal, if you don't grasp that these people work for you, then they will always be able to take advantage of you and they'll be able to lie straight to your face. Oh, Joe Biden doesn't have dementia. Joe Biden doesn't have dementia. He's fine. He's sharp as a tack. If you're Joe Scarborough, that's what Scarborough said. All right, let's tell you what, Gabe. Gabe reminded me because I can get on rants. And all right, I'm sorry. My computer is checking out on me for some reason. All right, let's go back to some videos here. Let's play where did you say Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, let's play number 3. My bad. Thank you, Gabe. This is
you asked 4 questions, and maybe that's what you were allowed to ask by the campaign or the White House. But they were essentially the same questions, both interviews, about accomplishments, progress in your respective state, what's at stake in the election, what he has to say about his debate performance, and what he would say to voters who think their vote doesn't matter or might sit this election out. Were those questions given to you by the White House or the campaign, or did you have to submit questions ahead of this interview?
The questions were sent to me for approval. I approved them.
Okay, so the White House sent the questions to you ahead of the interview?
Yes.
Okay.
I got several questions, 8 of them, and the 4 that were chosen were the ones that I approved.
Okay. And the reason I ask is not a criticism of either of you. It's just that if the White House is trying now to prove the vim, vigor, acuity of the president, I don't know how they do that by sending questions first, before the interview so that the president knows what's coming?
Now, the campaign in a statement did not deny providing these questions to that radio show host, but they did add that the interview was not conditioned on acceptance of those questions, and added that any reporter can ask the questions that they see fit.
Okay.
Now, today, the campaign is also saying that they're changing their practices going forward, and that they will no longer be recommending questions ahead of interviews. One source familiar with the Biden booking operation over at the campaign said, while interview hosts have always been free to ask whatever questions they please, moving forward, we will refrain from offering suggested questions.
Okay. Now, so again, just to reiterate, black woman, black radio host, all right, in Pennsylvania, black male radio host Earl Ingram in Wisconsin, swing states. Here, Negro, here are the questions that you're going to ask this white man, this white man who's not oppressing you, because the Democrat Party, they're not about oppression. And you're going to show the world that Joe Biden is full of vigor, that Joe Biden isn't senile. When we are, so these people are complicit in continuing in the lie. They're complicit in the takedown of the black community. They're complicit in the takedown of America. They're complicit in the takedown, the fundamental transformation of America. But let's do this too. CNN and the New York Times are both out trying to, was it Axios too? I'm not sure. Talking about this particular story. Oh, the White House is sending out questions. They're acting like it's a big deal. How do you have credibility? How do you have the moral authority to judge these people, Andrea Lawful Sanders and Earl Ingram? How do you have the moral authority to judge them and criticize the White House for sending them questions to ask the president, when you guys have been carrying Joe Biden's water for at least 4 years? You don't have the credibility. You don't have the moral authority. CNN is a joke. MSNBC, a joke. New York Times, a joke. And they want to sit here and pretend like they're all high and mighty. The only thing they're trying to do is cover their arses. Forgive me, man. This stuff just drives me nuts. Drives me nuts. And the Democrats are in a panic. Guys, they can be in a panic. We don't have to be in a panic. But let me reiterate what I said at the beginning of this podcast. We can't just be about tearing down Biden. Every single one of these fools believe in the same policies. Every single one of them. And we need to tie Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Shapiro, Pritzker, whomever, Whitmer, whomever else. All of these Democrats have been complicit. Every single one of them knew that Joe Biden was senile. But beyond the senility, they all believe in his open borders, right? They believe in the DEI and CRT that's tearing Americans apart, that's absolutely dividing us. The censorship, the weaponization of the federal government against people, meanwhile projecting that onto Trump and other Republicans. They all believe in this nonsense. They all believe in a woke military. They all believe in energy dependence and the climate change hoax. They all believe in this stuff. They all believe in brainwashing your children in these indoctrination centers that we used to call kindergarten, that we used to call pre-K, that we used to call grammar school, junior high or middle school and high school and college. They all believe in that stuff. So none of them, in my opinion, should get a pass. Not one of them. Absolutely insane. Let's see what else we got here. I'll just go over this real quick because obviously you guys heard the news of what happened in France. And there were some great there was great news last year with EU and the Brexit movement. Nigel Farage, it's no longer called Brexit. I think it's called Reform UK and all that kind of stuff, making inroads, not tons, but making some noise. Well, France had some elections. Macron called for an early election, and it has gone disastrous for the French people. These people rioted before the elections. They rioted after the elections. The far left did, despite the fact that they won the majority of seats in the parliamentary there. And it's a sad state of affairs because what Macron did was he worked with the far left. And when it's far left out there in Europe, it's far left. And when they say Macron is a centrist, he's a liberal. You know, he'd probably be a virtually a commie. Not quite, not quite, but he'd be a big time liberal out here in the United States of America. And then you have the right out there that are probably more like, you know, Democrats 15, 20 years or so ago. But they're not as conservative. When they say conservative, they're not conservative in the same bent that we are typically here in the United States. But they do tend to be more conservative. They tend to be more, you know, UK oriented or France oriented. They love their nations, in other words. But it was a total disaster. So now you have France, and they're absolutely concerned about what's going to happen in France, what it's going to look like, the economic stability, because now a bunch of left-wing kooks run the government. Let me see if let's go ahead and roll this, Gabe, if we can. Let's roll cut number 4, please, since I'm making mention of it. Yeah, so this is what happens when you win elections in France, apparently. I mean, this is insane. This is proof positive that you can never listen to me. You can never compromise with the left. You heard that voice crack? You can never compromise with the left. You can only defeat them. That's true for America. That's true worldwide. I understand. I understand there's politics that comes into play, right? Your goal as a politician should always be advancing your agenda, especially if you're conservative. And when it comes to communists, when it comes to the far left, you don't appease them. Though, I mean, you don't compromise with them. You defeat them. That's what has to happen this year in this election with Joe Biden. Absolutely insane. All right, let's do this. Let me just share this with you. I'm sorry, I'm bouncing back and forth. All right, Biden tells congressional Democrats that he is firmly committed to staying in this race. This was in a letter hat tip to the Daily Wire. In a letter to congressional Democrats, Joe Biden said he is, quote, firmly committed, close quote, to staying in the race and keep running for re-election against Trump, despite calls for him to step aside. He sent the letter to the Democrats today, doubling down on his intentions to remain his party's candidate. According to a copy that was obtained by Punchbowl News, Biden penned the letter as some lawmakers, including senior House Democrats, are now asking him to step aside or to end his reelection campaign. And he says, the letter says here, fellow Democrats, now that you have returned from the July 4th recess, I want you to know that despite all the speculation in the press and elsewhere, I am firmly committed to staying in this race, to running this race to the end, and to beating Donald Trump. I would suspect that if Jill Biden or staffers right around her had something to do with this letter, because Joe Biden is incapable. You guys have seen the headlines. You guys have seen the news. This guy has to have postcards just to walk out to the podium. Go here. Here's the podium. This person is going to ask you, and pictures. Not in some strange place, but in a place he should be very familiar with. Later in the letter, Biden defended his decision to stay in the race by pointing at his blowout victory in the Democratic Party over multiple Democratic challengers. What Democratic challengers? Honestly, all right. So the left is getting everything that they deserve. They had the opportunity with RFK Jr. if they wanted to run a primary. I forget the black gentleman that was in it, the professor with the wild hair. Oh, man, I forget his name. You have Mary Williamson. You have this other guy that was running as well. So you had the opportunity to have a primary. Democrats didn't want the primary. They were banking on Trump, sending Trump to jail. They were banking on maybe winning some of these Supreme Court cases or intimidating the Supreme Court. Remember a couple of years back after Roe v. The overturning of Roe v. Wade, how literally you had people showing up and protesting in front of the houses of the Supreme Court justices. Even this year, there was this kerfuffle between a neighbor of Samuel Alito and his wife. And this guy was just rude and nasty to her and all this kind of stuff. So that's what they were hoping for. They didn't get that. They didn't get that. So they assumed that Biden was going to be able to run. They were going to be able to, the media, mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC, all these outlets were going to be able to continue to cover up the narrative, or to cover up the truth that Joe Biden is senile. And they thought they were going to be able to drag him across the finish line. Just go ahead and implement Kamala Harris. Maybe Kamala Harris teams up with Shapiro or Newsom or something like that. And they thought they were going to be able to run this thing for another, 12, 16 years or whatever. And it doesn't look like that, all because of one debate performance where everybody seemed to, where Joe Biden was just an absolute and utter disaster. Absolute and utter disaster. All right, guys, please make sure that you support the show, by the way, by supporting the channel. We're on YouTube, Rumble, wherever we are. The Carl Jackson Show is where you can find us. Please subscribe. Please like, please share. We would certainly appreciate that. Before I go forward, I'm going to introduce to you some of the Republican platform that is so important, and the reasons why it's important, because I do believe that we have to be future focused now. I'm glad that the Biden administration are having their little kerfuffle with the rest of the Democrat Party. Actually, it's bigger than a kerfuffle, because, again, I'll go through more of this letter. This man is determined. He and his family aren't going anywhere unless Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and the aides that are in his immediate circle say, you're leaving. He's not leaving. He's not leaving. So Democrats are going to have to figure something out. The polling continues to spiral downwards for Joe Biden. Who knows what they might be willing to do. All right, guys, I want to talk to you real quick about Priority Gold, because we do know the economy is spiraling out of control despite lies saying otherwise. They talk about jobs and how they've created these jobs. Well, a lot of the jobs are part-time or low-paying jobs, and a lot of jobs are being taken by illegal immigrants. All right, so here's what you want to do. This is a hedge against Biden inflation. It's called gold. All right, Priority Gold, by the way. Economists warn that massive tax hikes could devastate your IRA and 401k account as the stock market braces for impact. With inflation on the rise and global uncertainty looming, it's clear why central banks and savvy Americans are turning to gold. In times like this, Proverbs 21:20 reminds us to preserve what we built. Right now, that wisdom points us towards gold. If you haven't had your eye on gold, time to make it a priority. My name is Carl Jackson, and I urge you to call my friends at Priority Gold to find out how they can help you diversify your savings with physical gold and silver. All you have to do is call 1-800-405-GOLD or visit prioritygold.com/golden, and you'll get a free gold info guide. Plus, see if you qualify for free shipping and storage as well. Act now to get your portfolio working for you while the market is golden. And right now, you guys know China, Russia, they are buying up gold like nobody's business. You should take advantage of it too. Call 1-800-405-GOLD to speak with a gold specialist, or visit prioritygold.com/golden to learn more. That's 1-800-405-GOLD. All right. Now, where do I want to go? Where do I want to go? Let's do this. All right, so let me bring you a couple of news points that I don't think I haven't heard anybody mention, and I thought this was a big deal. I saw it on PJ Media. Now all of a sudden I can't find it. Oh my goodness. Oh, here it is. This is from the National Pulse. Forgive me. All right, so here's what you have to be concerned about. The border is still wide open. As a matter of fact, I have a headline here when I was on Mike Gallagher I didn't get to, that I just want to, and now apparently I'm not going to get to it. All right, so Joe Biden, even with his executive order, you guys have to remember that executive order was pretty weak. Anyway, in the month of June, I believe it was, or May, you still had over 100,000 illegal immigrants that crossed our border. Nobody's talking about it. Now, this from New York City. New York City allocates millions for new prepaid debit cards for illegal. So New York City, Hat Tip National Pulse, is expanding debit cards preloaded with cash for migrant families staying in hotels funded by taxpayer money. Guys, I know this is happening in New York, but essentially this will happen everywhere. If Joe Biden gets in, they're going to keep all these illegals in, or Kamala Harris or whomever it may be. They're going to keep as many of these illegals in as possible. Right. Oh, I want to say hi to Hello, Sweet Shell 24. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So, hello, Sweet Shell. Tuning in from California on Rumble. Really do appreciate that. All right. So, you know what it's like to be under Democratic rule, Sweet Shell. All right. So again, New York City is expanding their debit cards preloaded with cash for migrant families staying in the hotels for taxpayer money. So Mayor Eric Adams' administration plans to give these cards to over 7,300 illegals over the coming 6 months at an estimated cost of 2.6 million. This is a significant expansion of an earlier pilot program that initially provided cards to about 3,000 migrants. Now, let me do this. Let me see if I can pop this up real quick. I saw this headline on the Daily Wire earlier. Let me see if I can still find it because I want to take you. Biden's speaking era has doubled in the last year. Analysts of official transcript. Okay, that's one. But we all knew that. If you're a conservative, you knew that. Here it is. Biden formally opposes bill requiring voters prove citizenship. Why would he do that? Why would the Democrat Party do that? Now, listen, let me make this emphatically clear. As long as we show up in mass, show up early, bring a friend to vote, encourage other people to vote by or before election day, get involved some way, shape, or form. If you've never donated to a campaign, and I'm not just talking a national, look around you, try to create a freedom buffer zone around you, find out who's running for school board, state committee, state committee man and woman, state chair, all of these local races, the county commissioners and sheriffs are some of the most important races that you should be paying attention to locally. They have a huge impact, the most impact on your life locally. So make sure you're paying attention to those races too. But just check this out. Biden formally opposes bill requiring voters to prove citizenship. Now, in states like Florida, I'm not saying that there won't be fraud. There's always going to be fraud. There's always going to be, but it's not going to be monumental where it's going to change the elections here because we got a lot of things going well for us here in Florida. I wish there would be one-day voting. We don't have that yet. I wish there would just be paper ballots. We don't have that. Lord willing, we will. But Joe Biden formally rejected a bill today in Congress that will require individuals to show proof of U.S. citizenship to register to vote in elections for federal office. Why would they want this? Why would they want this? And I guarantee you where they want this is in those swing states because we don't need, Trump's attorneys came out, in 2020. You don't need these mass numbers or conspiracy theories. All you need are the right votes in the right places in order to win. But listen, I don't want you to be discouraged. You just have to show up. You have to do something extra, and we can win this thing. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's going to be a landslide. I'm praying that it'll be a landslide. All right. But I simply don't know. A policy statement from the Biden administration said it strongly opposes the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, which was introduced by Representative Chip Roy of Texas earlier this year and expected to get a vote in the Republican-led House as early as this week, but did not mention the prospect of a veto. All right, it is already illegal for non-citizens to vote in federal elections. I'm quoting. It is a federal crime punishable by prison and fines. The alleged justification for this bill is based on easily disproven falsehoods, according to the statement. Additionally, making a false claim of citizenship or unlawfully voting in an election is punishable by removal from the United States and a permanent bar to admission. The statement added, states already have effective safeguards, but if you don't, if you don't enforce the law, it doesn't matter. It's like the border. What's happening is insane. I've been in radio for 10 years, maybe a little more now. I would talk about this stuff. Never necessarily thought I would see it. I was warning people that stuff like this could come. And now I got to be honest with you. There's times where I'm in shock. Like, what the heck? Let me share a quick story with you. Quick story. And then I'll move on. This is why I don't want Republicans to get lazy. It is going to be much harder to turn this country around if the Democrats win this November. Not just nationally, but locally. It's going to be much harder. I remember watching this UFC fight, and I know many of you out there may not uh, may not be familiar with UFC. Maybe some of you love it, maybe some of you don't like it. But if you've ever been hit in the liver, I've been kicked in the liver. I used to train in MMA, not for a long time. I wasn't great at it. I was just getting started in the sport, and I would practice Muay Thai and I would practice jujitsu, mostly jujitsu. But there were a couple times a week, or at least once a week, where I would train and Muay Thai too. I would just stay and train, and the membership that I paid for would allow me to do that. So I would, and so I remember training with a guy that was one of the instructors, and he was great in jiu-jitsu. He was great in Muay Thai. This guy had taken fights before, you know what I mean? He was really good. And so we were training, and he was showing me some moves or whatever, and I was just moving around the mat and kind of practicing, my shin guards and blocking my side with my elbow in case he kicked. He did a kick, and it was kind of slow-mo, and he just whipped his foot on my liver. I fell to the ground so quick. It was the most excruciating pain that I have ever felt for, I don't know, maybe it lasted 30 seconds to a minute. I literally wanted to die in that 30 seconds. I am not kidding. The pain was insane. I've never experienced anything like that before or after, thank God. All right. But it just excruciating. Now, let me take you back to this UFC fight. This happened to a guy that had been training, cut in amazing shape. And this guy was, he was kicked in the liver or hit in the liver by his opponent. And before that, if I recall correctly, he was kind of winning the fight. But this guy got a kick on his liver, and it just, he hurled over in pain. In absolute excruciating pain. Maybe the fight was closer than I remember. And he was just holding his side. And then the other fighter tries to capitalize on that, right? So the other fighter just comes up like he's getting ready to punch him or kick him. I can't recall. This guy that was injured from the liver kick musters the strength at the perfect time to just a right hook right on the guy's jaw. And the guy that was about to knock him out because he was in pain gets knocked out. It was amazing. But the point of the story is we can sit here and believe that we have 2024 won because of everything that is happening with Joe Biden. And the truth of the matter is, if we're not careful, the Democrats can issue a knockout blow. And this is why I don't like the talk of we can win by landslide. Maybe we can, and I hope we can, and I hope we do. But I want to make sure that we do. And so one of the things that we have to do is we have to start focusing on policy. Because in my opinion, it's not enough to defeat Joe Biden. That's not enough. We have to defeat this Democrat apparatus. This party, the Democrat Party, it's not a moderate party. It's a left-wing party. It is a radical party. It's an extreme party. They call us extreme. We're not extreme. There's nothing extreme about wanting the rule of law, right? There's nothing extreme about liking babies and wanting to see them born. There's nothing extreme about loving free speech. There's nothing extreme about working and wanting to keep more of the money that you work for. There's nothing extreme about wanting sealed borders. There's nothing extreme about wanting a strong military. There's nothing extreme about wanting clean energy, but energy independence, using fossil fuels, using natural gases. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing extreme about that. And the left wants you to believe that it's extreme. That's why we need to paint them as extreme. That's why we need to paint their ideas as extreme. And that's probably why I'm not as scared as many Republicans, even if they were to replace Biden with Kamala Harris, which I don't think it's going to happen because Biden says he isn't going anywhere. And at this, I don't know how they're going to force him out, except, God knows what. He says he's not leaving unless God has him leave. We just can't get lazy. We just can't get lazy. All right, let's do this. Let's show a couple of video clips from that from that interview, Gabe, with Stephanopoulos. And again, I'm going to encourage you guys to make sure you check out the interview in its entirety. Did a podcast on Saturday, and we just broke down. I mean, I'm telling you, Stephanopoulos, I'm not a fan of Stephanopoulos. I don't think he's a good guy. This was a guy that, as Megyn Kelly reminded us last week, part of the war room that sullied the names of Bill Clinton's alleged victims, that he, allegedly sexually assaulted. He and, Stephanopoulos and James Carville to build Clinton up. He tore these women down. You run a dollar through a trailer park and look at what comes out or something to that. I mean, just really nasty stuff. Really nasty stuff. Well, George Stephanopoulos was a part of that, but he was a part of this pressure campaign this Friday that I was like, this guy's impressive. But the fact that Joe Biden didn't buckle, I got to give him credit. Gabe, just play what we've got. I won't even call them out. Let's play a couple. Was it 5 and 6 or 6?
And did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
All right. And let's play the next one. Let's
Start with the debate. You and your team have said you had a bad night, but your friend Nancy Pelosi actually framed the question that I think is on the minds of millions of Americans. Was this a bad episode or the sign of a more serious condition?
It was a bad episode.
What was that sound? Was that him?
No indication of any serious condition. I was exhausted.
Oh.
I didn't listen to my instincts in terms of preparing, and I had a bad night.
You say you were exhausted, and I know you've said that before as well, but you came, and you did have a tough month, but you came home from Europe about 11 or 12 days before the debate, spent 6 days
Look at his eyes. Look at his
in
mouth.
Camp David. Why wasn't that enough rest time, enough recovery time?
Because I was sick. I was feeling terrible. Matter of fact, the docs with me, I asked if they did a COVID test because they were trying to figure out what was wrong. They did a test to see whether or not I had some infection, a virus. I didn't. They just had a really bad cold.
And did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
Well, what I want to get at is what were you experiencing as you were going through the debate? Did you know how badly it was going?
Yeah, look, the whole way I prepared, nobody's fault, mine. Nobody's fault but mine. I prepared what I usually would do, sitting down, as I did come back with foreign leaders or the National Security Council, for explicit detail. And I realized about partway through that, I get quoted, the New York Times had me down at 10 points before the debate, 9 now, or whatever the hell it is. The fact of the matter is that what I looked at is that he also lied 28 times.
About what?
The way the debate ran.
Okay,
Not
we can
my
stop
fault.
this.
Nobody else's fault. No.
We can stop this, but if you watch the interview in its entirety, I have to admit, Stephanopoulos, this was a hit job. This was a pressure campaign to get Joe Biden to get out of the race, and he didn't. And he's not. Doesn't appear like he's going anywhere. Breitbart is reporting. Marlowe is reporting from Breitbart. Democrats rush to back Joe Biden as president. Fights off calls to step aside. Also, Marlowe apparently on Charlie Kirk show, nothing to indicate Biden is going anywhere. This is a guy who said again, and he pinned a letter to Congress, basically saying, "Guys, I'm not going anywhere." I could go through it. I went through some of it earlier, but it's basically the same stuff. But again, going back to New York City, if Biden gets in, this is what we're in for. You've got over 10 million illegal aliens that have entered this country, invaded this country as a result of Joe Biden. They're going to replace you. They were brought in this country to replace you. And a lot of Democrats think this is the moral thing to do. They think that these people, America is evil. These people would be better off being in America and getting to take advantage of our jobs and resources and so on, et cetera. And so that's that. That's the way that it's going to be. Deal with it. So right now, New York City is handing out debit cards, and they've increased the amount as well as the amount of people. So the Mayor Eric Adams' administration plans to give these cards to over 7,300 illegals over the coming 6 months at an estimated 2.6 million. This is a significant expansion of an earlier pilot program that initially provided cards to about 3,000. So they're more than doubling the amount of illegals that they're going to give debit cards to because they say this is just easier. So taxpayers in New York City are going to pay for it. But wait a minute, perhaps we are too, right? Because now illegals are stationed all over the country. Who's going to pay for that? We are living in insane territory. Your vote is going to be so important this November. All right, so here's the GOP's plan. Let me go right to it. Let me share some good news because I think it's so important that we have a focus where it's not just about Biden, it's not just about Kamala Harris. We have to resonate with people in a different way. We have to be forward thinking. I do agree with that. Yes, I don't want the things that happened in the past to happen in the past, but right now, in order to win the voters that we need, we are going to need to talk about the things that are impacting everyday Americans. Before I get to naming a few on this platform, on the new platform from the RNC, which I think is a great platform, let me share this with you. Wealth protection research. At the very heart of our democracy lies a principle that we hold sacred, and it's free speech. It's the cornerstone that supports every freedom that we love. But in today's digital age, discussions about our wealth, our rights, and our future are being silenced or overshadowed in mainstream narratives, leaving many feeling voiceless in conversations that are crucial to our financial independence and security. This is where wealth protection research steps in. They're armed with a mission that's never been more critical. Wealth protection research is not a financial advisory firm. They are defenders of free speech, committed to giving a voice to people like you and me. Wealth protection research tirelessly seeks out financial experts. These are the voices that challenge prevailing narratives, especially as we navigate the uncertainties of the 2024 election. Wealth Protection Research has created a 2024 election wealth protection report. This free report highlights the 3 best ideas for protecting and growing your money heading into the 2024 election. It contains ideas the mainstream media won't touch, and listeners can get it completely free. All you have to do is text the word ideas to 76626. That sounded like Joe Biden there, to claim your free copy. If you believe in the sanctity of free speech, and I hope you do, and the importance of financial freedom, act now. Text the word ideas, IDEAS, to 76626 and claim your free copy of this 2024 election protection report. It's time to widen the scope of what we're told, to hear the ideas the establishment does not think you can handle, and to take control of our financial destinies. Text the word ideas to 766 to claim your free copy. Plus, if you text the word ideas, today, you'll also get a free gold investment kit from Wealth Protection Research, sponsored by Augusta Precious Metals. So again, text the word ideas to 76626. All right, so now here's the good news. Here's the good news. I love seeing this from the Republican Party. It is time to talk about policy, because if we talk about policy, Joe Biden, if he has to talk about policy, what is he going to say? He doesn't even know policy. So let's move on to Kamala Harris. What is she going to say? She's pretty much the same. She's pretty much the same, right? Gavin Newsom, Pretty Boy Floyd, what is he going to say? He's destroyed California. This is why it's so important to talk about policy. Trump is going to have to get very focused and very effective at doing this. The fact that he's been silent while all of this chaos has been going on in the Democrat Party has been a smart move by the Trump campaign, and a necessary move. I mean, when your enemy is destroying themselves, let them. All right, so here's the platform. Number one, and maybe I'll go through these with more detail tomorrow. Seal the border. Obviously, that's important. I believe it was in May, after Biden signed that executive order to curtail illegal immigration. We still had over 100,000 come in. Carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. Guys, this isn't going to be a small feat. I want you to brace yourself for this. Lord willing, we do win. Lord willing, we keep the House and grow our numbers with some conservatives that have a spine. And then the Senate, hopefully we'll take back the Senate, and we'll have some fighters in the Senate that are willing to see this through. Because if this does happen, the media is going to do everything, absolutely everything, to make you feel like a horrible person for deporting people. Oh, we can't send them back. We're going to separate families. No, we won't. We'll keep them together and ship them all back. In inflation and make America affordable again. Inflation is killing everyone. Inflation is a tax on everyone except the super rich, but it is a tax especially on the poor and on the middle class. I mean, obviously, if the dollar loses its value, things just cost too much. It's just too hard to live. In The Economist from the Heritage Foundation, E.J. Antoni, He talked about housing and how we're talking about, economists have been talking about a 20%, 20 something percent increase in housing. I think 25, 26% increase in housing over the last several years. And he's like, no, it's not. It's like nearly 120%. Houses have doubled in the last few years, thanks to Biden inflation. Also, make America the dominant energy producer in the world by far. That will bring down the cost of energy. I mean, of inflation. I'm sorry. Energy is tied to absolutely everything you do, from transporting food to the things that you wear. It's absolutely tied to anything. All of these nuts that say, "Oh, in global warming" and stuff like that. If they were saying it butt naked and not using not ever using transportation, not using a cell phone, maybe I would believe them and starve to death. Maybe. Otherwise, I don't. They're fakes. They're phonies. They're fraud. So make America the dominant energy producer in the world by far. Number 5, stop outsourcing and turn the United States into a manufacturing superpower. We used to do that. We should build stuff here. It is not enough to say, let's create these jobs. We've got to make a society and an environment that's conducive to bringing manufacturing back. We've got to deregulate, and it can't just be by executive order. This has to happen with law. That Chevron case was one of the biggest cases not many people talked about, but I think it's one of the biggest cases in modern Supreme Court history. Getting rid of that, reversing that Chevron deference, where these bureaucratic administrations get to make decisions, final decisions on law, wherever Congress isn't clear or the law is ambiguous. Whether it's the EPA, CDC, they get to decide what's best. No, that Chevron deference case was so huge. So by getting rid of some of this regulation, and we still need to cut back on regulation, chop off or amputate big government. That'll be huge. Large tax cuts for workers and no tax on tips. Obviously, that's been a huge part of Trump's campaign lately. Defend our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and our fundamental freedoms, including freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to keep and bear arms. So that's kind of broad. We'll see how that plays out. Obviously, that's important. That's a Bill of Rights, right? Prevent World War III, restore peace in Europe and in the Middle East, and build a great Iron Dome missile defense shield over our entire country, all made in America. Now, that would be pretty cool. In the weaponization of government against the American people, honestly, you would have to amputate part of the DOJ in order to do that. So hopefully, the RNC really means that. Stop the migrant crime epidemic, demolish the foreign drug cartels, crush gang violence, and lock up violent offenders. Sounds good to me. Number 11, rebuild our cities, including Washington, D.C., making them safe, clean, and beautiful. Again, I honestly, man, listen, Washington, D.C., when you go and see the Capitol building, and there's just nothing like it, man. There's just nothing like it. That city should be the safest city in the world. But if you leave the confines of the Capitol and all, I mean, you go into rough territory. That should not be in DC. I'm sorry. So kudos. That needs to happen. Strengthen and modernize our military, making it without question the strongest and most powerful in the world. We need a lot of ships built. We need updated weaponry. Keep the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency. You guys may recall that a couple of weeks back, or actually about a month back, the 50-year-old petrodollar, this from NASDAQ, agreement between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia was allowed to expire. And the term petrodollar refers to the U.S. dollar's role as the currency used for crude oil transactions on the world market. So now you have China, Russia, Iran, and all of these countries trying to form an alliance. And now you have Saudi Arabia willing to use Chinese money, Russian money, different types or forms of currency in order to trade, buy, and sell crude oil. That's going to hurt the dollar. That is going to hurt us. So we want to make sure that we get back in that market and that America remains the world's reserve currency. So that's very important. Fight for and protect Social Security and Medicare with no cuts, including no changes to the retirement age. Cancel the electric vehicle mandate and cut costly and burdensome. Right. All right. So it's not enough to cut the EV mandate. I'm glad this is on here. That's not enough. We need to stop the EV welfare. Stop EV welfare. There should be, if you want an electric car, fine. I don't give a flip. You should not get welfare. You should not get subsidized for it. I shouldn't have to pay for your EV. I don't even like EVs. I shouldn't have to pay for it. All right. You shouldn't give them an unfair advantage, especially when EVs are mostly only affordable for people that are upper middle class and beyond. All right. Let's see. Cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory and radical gender. Yeah, I agree with that. Ideology and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political. Now, I hope they do it. This sounds great, but I hope they do it. Keep men out of women's sports. That sounds logical to me. What about you? Number 18, deport pro Hamas radicals and make our college campuses safe, patriotic again. Yeah, I don't believe that anti Semites especially for foreign countries, should be on our freaking college campuses. Secure our elections, including same-day voting, voter identification, paper ballots, and proof of citizenship. I think this is so important. Everybody should feel that the election is safe, and fair. All right. Places in Europe do it. They use paper ballots. Canada uses paper ballots. I don't see why we can't. Unite our country by bringing it to new and record levels of success. I don't believe that. I hate to say this, but I believe it's a fantasy to think that you're going to unite this country. Maybe down the line that'll happen, but I think Trump is right. You focus on success, you focus on making America great again, and I think down the line people will say that was a good president. That was a good, that's what we needed at that time. But I got to be honest with you. If you're going to accomplish shield the border, carry out the largest deportation, you're going to have a lot of people that simply don't like you. And Democrats, we know who they are. We know how they operate. They're going to continue to divide the country because the only way Democrats can win is to divide the country. So, guys, keep fighting. Keep up the fight, man. And stay encouraged. Make sure that you spread freedom. Political, spiritual, financial freedom. That's what we need. Please support the channel. Like, share, and subscribe the channel. We're on Apple. Where are we on? Google, YouTube, Rumble, everywhere. Rumble, yeah, wherever we are. Please subscribe to the Carl Jackson Show podcast, and please share it. We would certainly appreciate that. I'm humbled that any of you guys would take time out of your busy schedules to watch. I really appreciate it. I'm in the fight with you. So I thank you for being in the fight with me. And I feel like we're in it together. All right. So Ellie, hey, thank you. Amanda Maddox and Melinda DeBold, thank you. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you to all of you that have decided to watch live and have taken time out of your busy schedule to do so. I really appreciate it. We're in this fight together. Let's go out and kick some booty November 5th and leading up to it. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in. And until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you all.